we're starting to write equations of hyperbolas given a graph. Today I want to write equations of hyperbolas given the vertices, foci points, or co-vertices. We're paying attention now, please. So, again, if you have one of your note sheets that has your chart on it for hyperbolas, okay, that's going to be very helpful for you. When you start your assignment, I can put my chart up on the board so you can look at that as well. So, example 1, we want to write an equation for a hyperbola with vertices at 6, 0, negative 6, 0, and foci points at 8, 0, and negative 8, 0. Okay, so first thing I want to do is see if this is vertical or horizontal. So I'm going to look at my vertices, okay, both of my vertices here, and I want to see which of those numbers, x or y, stays the same. So my y value stays 0. So I'm going to look at my chart, and I want to look for my vertices row and where my y value stays the same. Okay, so this would be horizontal. Okay, so this is horizontal. Next, what I want to do is find the center. Yeah. So, finding the center, you're going to use the midpoint formula with your vertices. Thank you. So plugging that into my midpoint formula, I have 6 plus negative 6 over 2, and 0 plus 0 over 2. So I do end up with 0, 0 as my center, and that is your h and k value. Okay, my next step is to find A. Okay, to do that, we're going to use our vertices. Now, since this is horizontal, I'm going to put my chart here and then I'll go back. So, since it's horizontal, to find A, using my vertices, I need to use that x value of my vertice. So I have h plus or minus A will equal that x value. Okay, so I have h plus or minus A will equal the x value in one of my vertices. That x value is 6. Now I can plug in 0 for h since I know what h is. Again, A, B, and C should always be positive. So A is going to equal 6. Okay, my next step is to find C to find B. Because I'm given my foci points, to find your foci points, you find C. Okay, so I want to use those, find C, and then use C squared is equal to A squared plus B squared in order to find B. So just like we did before with our vertice, now with our foci, okay, horizontal, I'm going to take H plus or minus C is equal to that X value in your focus point. Okay, so I have H plus or minus C is equal to my x value in the focus point is 8. And again, I can plug in my value for h. That's 0. Okay, and again, C should stay positive, so C is going to be equal to 8.
This one.
Yep.
So how do you know on step 2, how do you know to put 6?
Right here.
Yeah.
So if I look here, I'm using my vertices, right? I know it's horizontal. Okay, so H plus or minus A will give me the X coordinate in my coordinate point, right? So I want to look at this, and it should be equal to that X value in your point of your vertice. So my X value in my vertice here is 6. Yep, or you could use negative 6. And then same thing here, you could use 8 for C or negative 8. Okay, so now that I found C, to find B, I'm going to use C squared is equal to A squared plus B squared. And I can plug in my values. So I have 8 squared is equal to 6 squared plus B squared. So 64 is equal to 36 plus B squared. Subtract 36. I get 28 is equal to B squared. Take the square root. So B is equal to the square root of 28. And I want you to leave it in that root form. Okay, because when we write it in our standard form, you're going to square that, and it'll just cancel out that root. Okay, now that I have H and K, I have A, and I have B, I have all the pieces I need to write my equation in standard form. So my last step is to write out that equation. Okay, and since it's horizontal, I'm going to use this form right here. So I have x minus h squared over a squared minus y minus k squared over b squared. So again, I'm taking the square root of 28 and squaring it, so that cancels. You don't have to write that right away, you can cancel it. And it should always equal 1. Okay, I can simplify this a little bit. So if I have x minus 0 squared, I can just write that as x squared. Square 6 to get 36. Same thing with y squared here. And that's equal to 1. And that would be the standard form of your hyperbola. Questions on this first one? It's similar to what we did for ellipse as well, and circles and parabolas, all that. Yep. Are we good? Okay, I want to start looking at example 2 then. So example 2 is slightly different than 1. So we're still given the vertices, but this time we're also given the asymptotes. Okay? And it does tell us that it's a vertical hyperbola. So we don't have to figure that out, it already told us. So it is vertical. Now, again, my first step is to find the center. Okay, so step 1, find center. Okay, so I need the midpoint of my vertices. So we have 0 plus 0 over 2, and 5 plus negative 5 over 2. So I do get 0, 0 as the center for my h and k values. Okay, next, step 2, find A. So we're going to use our vertices again. So we have 0, 5, and 0, negative 5. I'm going to look at my chart here. Since it is vertical, our vertices are here. So I'm going to take that y value and set it equal to k plus or minus a. Okay, so I have k plus or minus a equals the y value in my vertice, 5. Okay, I can plug in 0 for k. So I'll end up with a being equal to 5. Okay, step 3. We're going to find b. Okay, I don't need to find c this time first though. Okay, so to find b, we're going to use our asymptote. Okay, so in my vertical hyperbola, the equation for your asymptote is this one right here. So I'm going to look at this piece. Okay, remember we just look at the slope. So the slope of your asymptote should be plus or minus a over b. Okay, so we have plus or minus a over b. So I'm going to look up here at my slope, and I'm going to use that down here for b. So I already have a is 5. So a is 5. What does that mean b has to be? 3. Okay, so b is just going to be equal to 3. Okay, so now I have h, k, a, and b. So I can plug that into my standard form here. Since it is vertical, I need to use this one. So we're going to take, in step 4, we're going to take y minus our k value is 0. That's squared over our a value squared. So we have 5 squared is 25 minus x minus h. H was 0. That is squared over our b squared value. So 3 squared is 9. And that should equal 1. And if you want, you can just leave it like this, or you can do what we did above and get rid of that 0 piece. Questions on example 2? There's different ways to find b. So first one, we found c to find b. This one, we use the asymptote to find b, right? The next one, we're going to use something else to find b. We good? All right. Example 3. Again, we're still writing the equation of a hyperbola. Again, we're given the vertices. This time, we're given a conjugate axis of length 24 units. Okay? So first I want to see which orientation this has, vertical or horizontal. So I want to look at my vertices and see which number stays the same. So your x values stay the same in this one. So looking at my vertices here, my x value changes when it's horizontal. It stays the same when it's vertical. Okay, so this one is a vertical ellipse. Or hyperbola. Okay, next I want to find the center. That's your step one. Let's find the center. So using that midpoint, 0 plus 0 over 2, negative 6 plus 6 over 2. So again, my center is at 0, 0. That's your H and K. Step 2, again, find A. Okay, so to find A, we need to look at our vertices. Since it is vertical, we're looking at this piece right here. So we're going to take K plus or minus A will be equal to the Y value in our vertice. And the Y value in our vertice, I'm just going to use the positive one here at 6. I can plug in 0 for K since I know that's what K is equal to. So A will end up being equal to 6. Okay, my next step is to find B. Okay, now to find B this time, I'm going to use that they gave me this conjugate axis. Okay, so your conjugate axis is equal to 24. To find a conjugate axis, you take 2 times B to get its length. So I can divide by 2, and B will equal 12. Okay, if it gave you the transverse axis, that would help you find A. So 2A equals your transverse axis, 2B equals your conjugate axis. Okay, so now I have HK and I have A and B. So I can go to step 4, and that is to write the equation. Okay, and since it is vertical, we'll have Y minus K squared over A squared. So 6 squared is 36 minus X minus H squared over B squared. So 12 squared is 144. And that should be equal to 1. Okay, questions on that one? So those are 3 different ways to find B. Good? Okay, last one. This one is similar to the first one, except your center is not 0, 0 this time. Okay, so we have vertices at 6, negative 2, and negative 2, negative 2. And we have our foci points here as well. So again, I want to see which one stays constant, X or Y. Your Y's do. Okay, so in my vertices, if my Y's stay constant, that's horizontal. Okay, so step 1, find our center point, so we're going to average our x's. So 6 plus negative 2 over 2, and negative 2 plus negative 2 over 2 for your y's. Okay, so we have 6 minus 2 is 4. 4 divided by 2 is 2. Negative 2 plus negative 2 is negative 4. Divided by 2 is negative 2. So these are your h and k values. Okay, step 2 is to find a. So to find a, we're using our vertices. Okay, since it is horizontal, I'm using this piece to find a. So we have h plus or minus a will equal the x value. Okay, and you can pick 6 or negative 2. Doesn't matter, I'm going to pick 6. Then I can plug in my h value that I found. That was 2. Subtract 2. So a is going to equal 4. Okay, step 3. Okay, step 3 is to find C to find B. Okay, we're finding C first because we're given these focus points. So, again, I'm going to look at my chart here. My focus point for horizontal is h plus or minus C will equal that x value in your focus point. So we have h plus or minus C will equal the x value. So either 9 or negative 5. Just going to choose 9. Okay, then I can plug in h. So I have 2 plus or minus c equals 9. Subtract 2. C will be 7. Okay, so now that I have a and c, to find b, we're going to use that c squared is equal to a squared plus b squared. And then I plug in c, so I have 7 squared equals 4 squared plus b squared. Seven squared is 49. 4 squared is 16. Subtract 16 from both sides. Take the square root. Again, leave it in that root. Don't plug it into your calculator. Okay, so now I have h, I have k, I have a, and I have b. So my last step is to write out my equation. And since it's horizontal, I'm going to start with x this time. So x minus h was 2, squared, over a squared, so 4 squared is 16, minus y minus k. Since k is, I'm going to subtract a negative, I'm just going to turn it into plus 2 and square that. And that's over b squared, so I'm going to square this square root. So those will cancel, and I'm left with 33. And that should equal 1. And that would be your standard form. Any questions?